color in user interface design. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. I just want to.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So my slide is, my presentation is coming up. Okay. Once again, my name is Ogunbadijo Babalola. I'm a member of the Income Design team. And today, subject of conversation will be the psychology of color in user interface design. So these are the subtopics that will be on. We are going to speak about the introduction to color psychology. We are going to talk on color theory basics. We are going to talk on the influence of color on perception and behavior. Then we will also touch on the cultural considerations when applying color psychology. And then we finally get to applying color psychology to UI UX design. Then we'll look at some case studies and examples before we look at the best practices and the common pitfalls in using color. Okay. So a quick introduction to color psychology. Um, at its most basic, color psychology is the study of how different colors affect human mood and behavior. It basically explores just how exactly colors can influence emotional response from people, since that's what we are designed for, as well as how response to color can be affect factors, whether it's your age, whether it's your cultural background, whether it's just your upbringing. There are different things that can affect just exactly how human beings experience color, how they interact with different colors. So let's quickly go through a rundown of the importance of color psychology. Why is color psychology something that should be studied and should be taken note of? So first of all, it enhances user experience. So basically, by using certain colors in certain positions, those colors can evoke some very specific emotions and reactions from users. Since we are in the tech company here, we're going to be talking in the way it affects our potential users. So just using color in certain places can actually affect how the user interacts with it, how they react to specific places. It also just makes the entire experience of using whatever product you have more engaging by using right color in the right places. So secondly is it influences user behavior. It originally enhances, but now it influences because by taking account into the different things that we are going to talk about ahead, one of it can influence exactly how the user interacts with the app. So by putting a giant red button somewhere, that will bring forth a sense of urgency in the user, makes it clear that, oh, this is a very urgent thing. That is how you influence user behavior. And by putting a giant green check mark or a giant green circle with a white check mark in it, that can bring a certain amount of calm to the user by knowing that, okay, whatever they're doing has been successful. So next we will talk about it reinforces brand identity. So if you think about the most popular of brands, one of the things you will notice is they have very specific colors um, that basically become synonymous with them. Take Coca-Cola, for example. No matter how many different flavors of Coca-Cola come out, whenever anyone mentions Coca-Cola, like I just did, I'm pretty sure everyone just thought of either the red can or the bottle with the red wrapper around it. So that is one thing. Like by using a very specific color repeatedly, it basically teaches your users, it's like reinforcing that belief in their head that, oh, this color can be associated with this particular brand. So by using it in a proportional way and the appropriate places, you can reinforce your brand identity using color psychology. The next, we will say it guides user attention. So by using the right amount of contrast, by using the amount of colors and in the right shades and everywhere, you can actually guide the eyes. So you can guide the eyes of your user into doing specific things, into going through specific flows. And I think the most basic example I can give you is your call to action. Um, for anyone, I'm pretty sure all of us here know that when you are doing a design, no matter where it is, no matter what it's for, whether it's an app, whether it's mobile, whether it is web, the call to action is going to be a standout. It's going to be in a particular color that doesn't just blend in with the rest of the design. It doesn't just like, s- stick with it. It has to stand out. It has to be something bright. It has to be something that calls attention to it. So that is color psychology at work there. When every other thing in the screen is somehow bland, and then suddenly there's this giant button, not necessarily giant, but I say giant as a means to convey very specific like look. So there's this very bright button that is basically dragging attention to it from the rest of the screen. That is color psychology at all. And last of the importance we talk here, because it seems like I'm spending too much time on this, is conveys information efficiently. Color psychology helps you to convey information efficiently. Um, it goes back to what I was saying about influencing user behavior. Just by using specific colors, you can just send message. The same way, like as we are in our country, in our part of the world, we all know that red is for errors and green is for success. Something as simple as that is just color psychology at work. So by using colors efficiently, we can pass information very effectively without wasting too much time and anything. You don't really necessarily, people don't even necessarily read the text that is attached to it. Just by seeing a particular color at the end of a particular action, they can get the idea of whether it was successful, if it was a failure, or things in that vein. So the image on the right here is called the Rose of Temperament. It is a diagram from, I think, the 18th century that was created to show 12 colors that are associated with 12 human traits, 12 character traits. Um, I won't be able to go too deep into it, but one of the most this is one of the oldest forms of like color psychology put into recorded form, where we could say that okay, people have studied color psychology and they've started attaching colors to certain emotions and certain traits, whether it is um, just being chaotic, whether it's being free loving, there are colors that attach to all of those. So the I'm moving forward now. So the color theory basics. We cannot talk about color in any way without talking about the color wheel. The color wheel is one of the most important things, anything related to color. It is synonymous with color. Everyone needs to have a certain idea of color wheel. I'm pretty sure we all know some parts of color wheel, but just for the sake of this conversation, I will speak a little on it. So the color wheel is just a way for um, all colors to be arranged appropriately in a way where they interact with each other in a specific way. So whether it is the primary colors, which are the basic colors that we all know, red, blue, and red. I said red, yellow, blue, and red. Those are the primary colors. Then secondary colors that are combinations of two primary colors. Then you have, analogous colors that neighbor each other. So, for example, green and yellow green colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel. So it's just things like that. These are just ways that we group color in a way where we can better understand them and in that way better use them. Complementary colors are colors that are directly opposite each other on the color wheel. And so these are just ways that we can specify what type of color we want to use in certain situations. It's just a way to make things easier for us. So influence of color on perception and behavior. So just looking at this here, I'm pretty sure we can all um I'm pretty sure you can see it. I hope everyone can see what I'm saying. So influence of colors on perception and behavior. It's basically as humanity has gone, as civilization has improved, we have gotten to a certain point where certain colors in certain parts of the world elicit a certain amount of a certain emotion from us. As you can see here, red inciting urgency and excitement, blue inciting trust and security, white inciting cleanliness and simplicity, purple luxury and creativity. These are things that these are the way we look at certain colors basically is how what those colors bring out in us. So those are this thing. There is like all color psychology, years and years of color psychology being passed down from teacher to student, from father to son, from mother to daughter. It is just how it works. This is color psychology at its finest. But I would also be remiss, sorry, I also be remiss if I didn't speak on the cultural considerations when it comes to color. I don't know if you've noticed, but as I've been talking about the influences of color, I have always been talking about our part of the world, which is a very important factor. Um, the two images that are on screen are showing examples of the same type of event, but from two different parts of the world. Same type of event, a wedding. The image on the left is a Chinese wedding, and the image on the right is a regular Western wedding, the white wedding, the church wedding. I'm pretty sure in the Chinese wedding, you can see that the most dominant color there is red, because in Asia and in Eastern Asia, around the areas of China, red is a color that is synonymous with joy. It's a color that is synonymous with celebration. You wear anytime there's any form of a celebratory activity, the most prominent color there is going to be red. Whether it is a birthday, whether it is a wedding, whether it is New Year, sorry, whether any festival, the most prominent color there is going to be red. And in that same area of the world, the whites that we use in our side of the world to represent cleanliness, and we use it for weddings, we use it for things like that. In their side of the world, whites you can't wear that much white because it is the color that is associated with death. So the color that is they use during their burials, where we use black, they use white. So when you are um, in any way or shape or form going into using color psychology for any particular project, you need to make sure that you are conscious of okay, exactly what is the norm in the side of the world I'm designing for. You cannot use a white image, a white background or a white call to action or anything similar to like that in a for a Chinese user. You have to make sure that it is something that grabs their attention. It's something that to them represents what they've been taught since young. So you have to make sure that no matter what side of the world you are working on, you need to do your research, find out their cultural considerations, and then you move forward. Um, Next is what the this thing applying color psychology in UI UX design. So when applying color psychology in UI UX design, there are a couple of very simple things you can do. One, choosing a color palette. You do your research regarding you do your research regarding the product, you do your research regarding the user base, and then you choose a color palette. You have to make sure that within these color palettes, there are colors that contrast properly with each other. There are colors that don't blend into each other. There are colors that like can stand out when placed on top of each other, so that there's a set. Exactly, it's all about creating contrast there. Um, then secondly, you have to guide user actions with color like I already spoke about, you need to make sure that the color that you are using in certain places, it's a color that the user is already used to representing certain actions. It's just used to representing certain outcomes. Like once again, at its most basic, it is red for um, an error and green for success. If we were to switch the colors and just were to make it a green cross and a red check mark, and you were to use it in an app, it would cause a very large amount of confusion. I don't even think it would be allowed for this thing to be launched, but I'm just using that as an example. So, because if a user was to see that, they'll be confused because like they've always known green to signify success, but seeing it on a crossed out mark would confuse the average user. And last, but certainly not the least, ensuring readability and accessibility. You need to make sure that your color, that whatever color you use for your text, it is done in a way where it is easily readable. It is easy to, it stands out against the background. And these are some examples on the right here. Sorry for it being so blurry. It was, I don't know what went from there. So I'm pretty sure you can see under all the bad examples, even the ones that are even vaguely visible, they are not easily visible. There are things that you have to strain your eyes to read, or and like that is not what we want. We don't want to stress our users. We want them to have ease of use. So that's where you need to make sure that whatever color you use, that the background that you are using it on, the color of that background, it creates a certain level of contrast where it is just easy to read. It is smooth to read. Like, so that is one of the most important parts of UI UX design and why we use color psychology in it is to make sure that our user has a certain level of ease when using whatever our product, whatever it is in whatever form it is. Sorry, I just want to check in to make sure everyone can still hear me.
Yes,
We can
Okay,
still hear
yeah, we
you.
can hear you.
okay. Thank you very
Thank
much. So, finally, case studies and examples. So, the these are two companies who have used color psychology in a certain way to affect the population, their user base. So let's look at Coca-Cola. Like I said, when you mention Coca-Cola, this is the color that you'd expect to see. This is that pops up in your head, no matter what was the last. You could have drank another flavor of Coca-Cola in a white bottle just before this meeting started. But the moment I mentioned Coca-Cola to you prior, it would have been this particular brand, this particular color that popped in your head because it has just become so synonymous with the brand. It has built a certain level of, yeah, it has just become synonymous. So it has gotten to a point where it's built a certain level of excitement in you. And that is one of the emotions that red as a color it pushes on the user. It pushes the excitement. It pushes this certain need, like a drive, a desire to get it. It's because of that is apart from the general taste of the product, it's just the visual aesthetic of the product that also does that. Also, we look at Facebook. Facebook at the start, um, they chose the color blue to signify trust because one of the major things was Facebook was going to be a way for you to reconnect with people that you lost contact with, was going to keep up with your friends. And one of the major concerns was the like, concern of security. no matter how ironic that might be now, but at a certain point, them using blue was for them to signify that you can place your trust in them. That's why if you notice a lot of older banks in Nigeria, even some of the newer ones, they use blue. They use cool colors. Blue, very cool green, very not dark green, but not also light green, but just somewhere right in the middle. It's a way for you to just push that feeling of trust on your users. So these are just two of the most blatant examples when it comes to the case studies of how color psychology can be efficient when, not even just in regular design. It's as something here, it is product design. We're not even talking about web design or app design here. This is just regular product design. So you can see just how effective color psychology can be in that. Okay, so the best practices and common pitfalls. So we are coming to the end of the presentation now. These are things that are very easily missed, and at the same time, there are things that you should also be that is why they should be these things that you keep in mind the most. So first and foremost is make sure to keep your color palette simple. You don't want to have a massive variety of colors, so you just want to have a few colors, three or four, maybe not depending on the scope of the project, but you just need to make sure it is something that they are not too different, that it is like it starts looking like a clown show, but at the same time, it's not too similar that they don't ensure, like the second one, good contrast. You need to make sure that your color palettes that you choose, while not being too extravagant, at the same time, it can be used in a way where they complement each other, where they have good contrast on each other, where they stand out from each other. But so it is all about trial and error, figuring out just exactly what colors you should use in your palettes. Next, you should maintain consistency. You do not want to use different colors for the same particular message. If you are using black as the background color for your call to action and you're using orange for the text color, you make sure that every single place where you use that call to action, no matter the size, no matter the background, you have to make sure that it stays that way. Okay, the background might this make you change it so you could have a second call to action, but you should try your best to make sure that there is a certain level of consistency in the colors that you use, because that is a way for you to reinforce the user's mentality. You need to make sure that, like, by using the same colors over and over and over again for certain places, by the time a user opens a new page or opens a new page, by the time their eye catches a particular color, before they even need to read where it's there, they already know that, oh, this is a call to action. It might not be the call to action that leads to the same place, but they know, oh, this particular button here is a call to action. The eye just naturally drifts towards that. That is just human psychology naturally. So we are attaching color psychology to human psychology. So you just need to make sure that there's a certain level of consistency. At the same time, we want to avoid the overuse of background colors, because then it just confuses the user. It's like there's too much happening at the same time, and then like it just leads to a point where they don't know what to do at all points, because the human eye naturally drifts towards the brightest colors on the screen. So by the time you have a very bright yellow on the right, a very bright red on the left, there's a bright blue down, there's a bright yellow, there's a bright green up. Like the user doesn't know exactly what direction they should be looking, and that affects the entire UX experience. And last but not least, and one of the most overlooked things is to consider cultural context. We are not even going to think of something as massive as different as the west and the east sides of the world. We are going to just there could be two neighboring countries where one of their the country's most used colors is green and the other country's most used color is yellow. It's like you need to make sure that before you move into anything, unless you grew up in that, but if you grew up in that particular culture, that particular society, then whatever is your go-to um, thoughts would be the correct thing because that you already live in that culture. But once you are designing outside of your society, outside of your culture, you need to do your research. You need to figure out, okay, exactly what color can I use, what color can I not use, because there could be some colors that elicit bad emotions in some cultures, and but if for you they are either just normal or they elicit very good emotions. So you need to do your research just by if you feel like using a color, you could just Google particular country or the particular continent that you are designing for and just add the color there, and you get some responses regarding what is the general feel about that color in that particular society that you are going into. So I just want everyone to keep that in mind, no matter what type of design you use. Talking to all our visual designers, the graphic designers, and the UI designers, particularly Sunny, Sofiat. I can't see my screen here, so I'm just saying, just keep this in mind. Adekunle is probably laughing because he was the one that mentioned this to me not that long ago. But it's just to remind you that cultural context is very important that when you are designing for anything. So yes, that is the end of the presentation. And now we are going to take on some questions. So the question one is, what type of colors do you define red, orange, yellow? What are they classified as in color theory? I think I'm going to skip over this color because I skipped over it in my presentation. I'm sorry. It falls under, let me quickly go back there. It was under the groupings of, ooh, sorry, while this reloads, under the groupings of colors, one of the color groups that I did not speak on was warm colors and cold colors. They are basically colors that the warm colors are colors that elicit like warmth and energy, while the colors are colors that elicit, a sense of calm, relaxation, and professionalism. So I think with that basic definition, will anyone be willing to give a try as to what type of color red, orange, and yellow will be classified as in color theory? Anyone?
I think they are warm colors.
Yes, thank you very much. They are warm colors because they elicit a certain level of energy, excitement, enthusiasm, and passion in in people. So that's why we call them warm colors. Okay. Secondly, which color is frequently used by financial institutions and tech companies to convey trust and security? I spoke about this not that long ago. Does anyone have an answer?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe blue.
Yes, thank you very much. It's blue. When you think of institutions like Facebook, you think of institutions like First Bank, some of their most prominent colors there are blue. Thank you for that. Question three, why is it important to consider cultural differences when choosing colors for a global audience? So there are options on the screen. Colors have the same meaning in all cultures. Colors can have different meanings and connotations in different cultures. Only some colors are visible to users in different cultures, and cultures are irrelevant to user perception in UI UX design. This is so. This is B. Yes, thank you very much. It's B. I'm just using this to enforce the particular. Samuel, you raised your hand. Do you have any question?
No, not at all. I wanted to answer. I felt like I have to raise hand before answering.
Okay, okay. Sorry, the question has been answered, but yes, the answer is B. I'm just trying to use this to reinforce that particular belief in you. Because so colors can have different meanings and connotations in different cultures, no matter how similar the cultures they themselves might be. They might have certain differences while they look at certain colors. Thank you. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any question? We have 4 more minutes for this KD. Does anyone have any question, anything they'd like to ask regarding color psychology or color theory? No question. Okay. So think
All right, so
if
thank you
there,
so much, Dasila, for a very wonderful presentation. And
thank you very
thank you
much.
everyone for participating, responding.
Sorry, hello.
Yeah, Samuel, go ahead.
I
Yes.
have a question. Thank you very much for this section. My question relates to regarding colors. For adventure, you
Yes.
made an error in displaying a wrong culture. Color and interpretation. Let's say you use a wrong color during your advert or your tech during your programming, and it has gone out already. How best do you salvage the issue? That's mitigate. Do you just have to take it down and then put up the right color, or you have to send
So
them, tell them
so
that
for
sorry?
something like that, sorry for it cutting you off. But for something like that, it depends on just exactly in which form the color mistake was made. So if it is a case of there being bad contrasts or something like that, where whatever you're reading, whatever you sent out, there are parts of it where it's not readable, and the message that you want to send.
All right, so I believe his network, right? Can anyone hear me, please?
I can.
Yes.
Yes.
I hear you.
All right, so I think his network is
Oh.
back. All right, so but Samuel, your question has been answered, right? Are you satisfied?
Yeah. From what I could learn, it depends on the situation, and the solution is situational based and can be done.
All right. Thank you. So thank you everyone for joining. I do have a productive day.